Hey teachers, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, whenever you're watching this. It's good to see you, good to be seen by you. I got a quick teaching tip that hopefully will help you with 2nd Nephi 9, but not just help you with 2nd Nephi 9, but help get your students a little bit more engaged maybe in what's going on in class. But just real quickly, just a couple things I wanted to talk to you about. Number one, make sure that you're marking your roll at least weekly. Like daily would be awesome, but I understand that that can be difficult. Mark it at least weekly. I've instructed the supervisors, they're going to check your attendance every week. If the if you haven't marked attendance for that week, they're just going to mark all the students' absence. You can go back and check it, but I get a lot of phone calls from parents wondering why their student has missed 15 days of seminary, but really they haven't. They've been there every day, and so when you don't mark that they've been there, the parents, when they go into my seminary, they get kind of nervous because their kid isn't getting credit. So make sure that you're giving your students credit when they come at least weekly. Make sure that you remind parents, send them an email, a text, however you're communicating with parents, remind them that they need to be the ones marking the reading for their students. You're not going to be the ones marking reading this year. As much as you're tempted to want to do that, don't do it, because we've got to establish the culture that engages parents in the reading and in the seminary process. We want the parents to be engaged in it. We want them to know what their students are studying, and that's how we're going to do it. I know there's special circumstances where some kids' parents just won't because of activity in the church or whatever. You can mark reading for them, or even I think for many of your students, they can go on the My Seminary page and they can mark reading for themselves, which is fine too. But at all costs, I want you to avoid marking the reading, and just I want to take that out of your hands. You can send emails to the parents as reminders, but then you should know, you should be asking your students, hey, did you read, and encouraging that way. You're just not going to be holding them physically accountable for that reading by marking it. That's going to be up to the parents. When the parents mark it on My Seminary, it'll automatically show up in your in WISE. Make sure there's been in a number of classes, and way too many classes, there's lots of questions about attendance and tardies and things like that. We need to elevate learning, and as we elevate learning, we increase the expectations for seminary, and you need to explain that to your students. Students can't come 20 minutes late to class or leave 20 minutes early and expect to receive a seminary diploma. Of course, we want them there, and a seminary diploma isn't the goal of seminary, but the reason why we have graduation and diplomas and things like that is to indicate that the students have met a standard. So if they want to come late or if they want to leave early, that's fine. We'd prefer they didn't, obviously, but if that's what they're going to do, just make sure they're aware that they can't get credit towards graduation for seminary if that's the pattern. I understand there's an occasional time that happens, but if it's just a over and over and over thing, there's got to be other arrangements made if they want to get a seminary diploma. So talk to your supervisors if you have the questions about that. We just want to make sure that the seminary is a purpose-driven program, and if they feel like they can come with 20 minutes left in class and still get credit, then there's not much purpose. There's not a lot of purpose driving them to class. All right, so now here's your teaching tip. Sometimes the word worksheet can be considered a swear word for students, right? They hear worksheet and they go, oh, but worksheets, if they're done right, they can provide a lot of great discussion opportunities for you as a teacher. Some of you have noticed, like, the test that we do at the end of every semester is kind of like just a big worksheet, and there's been some great conversations and discussions that have taken place because of that test. So you can give kind of mini worksheets. I would not give students big worksheets, but maybe just a small one. Like, for example, I've made this one up for 2nd Nephi chapter 9. You can just cut it in half. It really is only that much. And I'll post a picture of this so that you can copy it. You don't have to copy it. You can make your own. But a couple of principles to follow. If you just have a a sheet of paper, even just with like 3 questions on it, and the scripture reference written on that paper, and you send the students in the scriptures searching for an answer. Sometimes that's a great way to mix things up just a little bit and get kids engaged in looking for an answer. Sometimes, I mean, you can get even kind of fancy on. There's crossword puzzle makers online that are that you could try out. And maybe as silly as those sound, some kids really get involved in worksheets, and you don't make one that's really long. That's going to take them a long time to do, but give them an opportunity to just kind of explore on their own and see what they can find, and then this becomes a jumping off point for a class discussion. For example, on my 2 Nephi 9 worksheet, I just have, it's almost like a fill in the blank thing. So I say, they're supposed to read 2 Nephi 9, verse 39 through 46 and verse 52. And the first one I have on here, it says, come unto, and then they have to search for, well, who am I supposed to come unto? And then it says, remember, and there's 4 things that are said that they need to remember, and so they can look for those things. And then there's other words that basically it's just a finish this phrase type of thing. As they finish those phrases, you can ask questions to them. Questions like, why do you suppose that Nephi and Jacob wanted us to remember these things? Why do you suppose that they wanted us to give thanks for these things, or to shake off this thing, or to turn away from this thing? Those are all questions that you can engage your students with, and they'll have a launching point because they have studied those previously. So hang in there, teachers. You're doing great. If you have any questions, again, your stake supervisor are awesome. They can answer so many of your questions. They're good folks, and I'm just sitting here in my office waiting for you to call me too. So I hope that works out for you. Love your guts. See ya.